Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Ride Along. Kevin Hart as a Atlanta security guard who is going out with this girl he's been going out with for quite a while, and he wants to ask her to marry him, but he needs to get the permission of her brother, Ice Cube, who's a police officer. He is trying to join the police academy, become a police officer himself, and especially wants to get the approval of Ice Cube, not just for his engagement, but also in general because he doesn't much like him. He asks Ice Cube that he just wants to get his respect, and Ice Cube decides that Kevin Hart and him should go on a ride along, and he drives around Atlanta, taking him around and showing him his day as a police officer while also trying to solve the crime of the notorious criminal Omar. And buddy cop comedy ensues from there. Ride Along is Kevin Hart's coming out as a leading man. It's his first real leading man role, a film that's really being sold on his name. I've kind of thought he was ready for this for a while now. It's been a couple years since Think Like a Man, and it just felt like, you know, his star is on the rise, and it's about time for him to really, you know, take hold and kind of see what his box office prospects are and how he would really be as a leading man in a motion picture. I was actually quite excited because I've liked Kevin Hart. I've seen a little bit of his stand-up, I've seen him on talk shows, I've heard him on podcasts, and I quite like him. And I've regularly liked Ice Cube. It's been a while since I've liked him in anything. And together with Tim Story, who actually had major successes for both actors with Barbershop with Ice Cube and Kevin Hart's big breakout film with Think Like a Man. Now he's combined them both and made Ride Along. One of the biggest problems with this film is actually the director, Tim Story, who makes the mistake that most buddy cop comedies fall into, which is being more obsessed with this stupid mystery than actually like the comedy or the chemistry between these two actors. Now that's kind of what they sell the film on, and if you've seen the trailer for Ride Along, there's no mention of like this kind of bigger crime story going on. You just assume it's just about them on a ride along. And The Heat did that a lot better. I think The Heat understood like why most people don't like buddy cop comedies and why most of them fail. And this film just seems to be pleasantly fine with doing kind of a normal genre buddy cop comedy. And that's very boring, but it also kind of shows you the problems with it. I remember seeing Identity Thief about a year ago, and it made me think about better versions of the kind of comedy that Identity Thief was. And I think the same thing with Ride Along, where it's shot almost like very sitcom-y, very pleasantly, like it can just basically play on TV. It almost doesn't really make sense that they play it theatrically, because there's just like nothing really theatrical about it at all. And they really shoot it like kind of just a bland mainstream comedy. If you look at kind of buddy cop comedies, probably the most successful one, and not just because it's Kevin Hart and he's black or anything, is probably 48 Hours. And I think the reason 48 Hours works and that mystery feels scary and that mystery works a lot better, and it's kind of like the film all these buddy cop comedy films kind of wish they could be in a lot of ways, even though they really should be The Heat. Honestly, I feel like that's kind of what's strongest about a lot of these films. When you film things like a mainstream comedy and all the colors are, you know, pleasant and nice and there's no interesting cinematography or anything, there's a feeling of safeness to it. You kind of know neither Ice Cube or Kevin Hart are really going to die, or they'll be fine in the end and everything's going to wrap up in a nice little bow and you're going to go home and go, oh, that was a nice movie. In 48 Hours, there was kind of the way it shot more like a realistic cop drama made you kind of feel like something could go wrong, because it feels like a cop drama film where things can go wrong. There's like parts of 48 Hours that feel really scary, and I feel like something could happen to Eddie Murphy or Nick Nolte. And in this film, I never really feel that way. And Tim Story is kind of just such a regular studio director. I've never quite liked him. Think Like a Man was kind of a pleasant movie to fold laundry to, and that was about as good as it really got. So I don't know why I thought this movie would be any better. It's actually kind of worse. Ice Cube, I wish he would go back to like the strong actor he was and stuff like Boys in the Hood and Three Kings, and I still feel like he has it in him to give another really good performance. He's kind of almost on autopilot with his sneers and his like toughness. Feels like he knows how to do that so easily at this point. This is an easy paycheck for him. He did produce this film. I know a lot of people are bringing up like, oh, he plays a police officer and he was in NWA and they did Fuck the Police, but it's really like not even worth noting. It's so perfect for him to play a police officer, and honestly at this point Ice-T already went through that with SVU, so Ice Cube doing it doesn't feel like as bad, but I guess it's worth noting just for the sake of noting it. Kevin Hart, who was the reason I wanted to see this movie, I loved watching the trailers with him, and he was kind of funny, and I think when it was just him and Ice Cube, this film really popped and really shined. Not too much, but I didn't really feel like he was as strong in a lead of a film as he is when he's more of a supporting player like he was in Think Like a Man. I was kind of sad to see that because I kind of wanted him to be a strong lead, and I think everyone wants him to be, but he didn't really prove it. And I think that's one of the things I've thought about why a lot of actors go out of vogue, or why a lot of actors who everyone thinks are promising, it never really happens to them, because you have to kind of give a great performance so the audience is like, oh, you know why they're very good, I saw them in this movie and they were very excellent in it. I just didn't feel like the promise I felt when I saw him in supporting roles and I saw his comedy and I saw him on talk shows. That wasn't really on display in this film. I still have a lot of faith in him, and I'll probably see a couple more movies with him in it, to be honest, but I just didn't feel like this displayed it as well, and that was kind of disappointing. In terms of him, I just felt like he could have been a lot funnier. The mystery is so forgettable and stupid, and just like the thing that I thought the Heat did really well, this movie is kind of like the opposite. I wish finding out the villain Omar is Lawrence Fishburne, which they give away pretty quickly at the beginning of the movie, but they try to like not show him for a long time. I like seeing Lawrence Fishburne, and I actually thought he was decent in it, and he played off Kevin Hart well, but I think anytime they just let them play off each other and they weren't concerned with the plot, it worked a lot better, much like how the Heat works. And Ride Along just doesn't seem to be able to take hold of that. And I think Tim Story is too much of a studio director to let that go. This film is too plot-centric to really get into all the improv, but it seemed like that was what this film really should have been ultimately, and I feel like that goes with more of a comedian style anyway. I don't think Kevin Hart didn't really show that he can work within a plot, but this was kind of a lame, boring, stupid plot, and it wasn't really that interesting anyway. It's like a mildly pleasant movie that's good to pass the time, and I feel like this could go kind of the same with Think Like a Man, where it's a movie I have on while I fold my laundry. It's just, you know, kind of an average buddy cop comedy. So if you have seen Ride Along and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to.